Everybody, I'm Ken Reddick from Meld.
And Melissa Stepancic from
Back in October 2011, we undertook a project with the Royal Ontario Museum to bring dinosaurs to life for their exhibit, Ultimate Dinosaurs. And on the topic of apps, there were a number of apps that we had produced, a mobile app and other exhibits, which we're sort of considering apps in this case, because they worked on tablets, but they also worked with other technologies that are highly interactive and app-like. I'll just, in the interest of time, kind of go through. There were, it was an augmented reality app that was both used for marketing and for an exhibit. We had augmented reality dinosaur stations in the exhibit. We had a reactive wall, which was a Kinect-controlled sort of dinosaur zoo. We had the Continental Drift puzzle game. And I think in all of this, the question about not calling it in is all about, you know, where you're spending your effort and how you're going to sort of maximize on the experience, and considering the user and considering the purpose of what you're building. So just running through here. So the augmented reality app itself. Sorry. What are we missing here? Okay. So the app itself essentially would bring these dinosaurs to life using augmented reality. So the idea is that you point your phone at markers and you have these experiences. So one of the ways that, or one of the things that was the biggest consideration was how those dinosaurs would look and the experience that a user would have. And a lot of that had to do with how great can we render these dinosaurs and what technology will be the best choices. And all of these things are all wrapped in on themselves in terms of what device we're going to use, you know, what computer vision technology that we're going to use for augmented reality. And in the end, what we were able to do was to sort of make a good decision that the iPhone was going to be the best platform for us to be able to spend the least amount of time on development and put the most amount into the user experience, and really do a great job of rendering those dinosaurs and making the experience easy for people to get and to understand. You literally launch the app, it says, there's a start button, and it tells you to point the camera at an image with a marker on it. Can't be, you know, it couldn't be easier from a user perspective to do that. And once you do it, you get that wow moment, because immediately you see this dinosaur standing in front of you. And great things that Ron really, you know, knew what they wanted to do with this app. They wanted to be able to use it in marketing, and they wanted to be able to use it in the exhibit. So that allowed them to create almost more content out of less, because we were able to repurpose certain animations in different ways. For example, we see, well, the main marketing one was this one here, which is Giganotosaurus was on the transit shelter ads. When you pointed your phone at these transit shelter ads, he would burst out and he would start screaming at you. It was pretty cool, but you could have other experiences as well. That out front of the museum, there was a very large marker, and you could see the dinosaur full scale. So that allowed sort of more reach of the content, because we were able to use that same marker in a newspaper. And so rather than seeing the giant one, you'd see a smaller one, and it was reaching out to a greater audience and drew people in. Then once you came to the exhibit, you've already got the app. So you've already downloaded that app, and you would then be able to go around and take it to the exhibit and see them at each of the installations. So I think that you know, a big part of it is really just making sure that you know, your objective is clear, and you're considering your user, and you're considering that the content is maximized. And do you want to add? Yeah.
Well, content creation can get quite pricey. It takes a lot of really specialized skills to bring these dinosaurs to life. It takes you know, a 3D modeler who's also a paleo artist or a paleontologist. It takes really skilled animators who in some cases have worked in you know, feature film industry. So when you're talking about this type of content creation, it's really important to try and extend the life of your assets and to sort of do it in a way where you'll be able to take the user, you know, pre-exhibit, sell the experience, and then also take it, you know, actually provide meaningful sort of didactic information when you're in the exhibit. So that was one of the things that was really great in working with the ROM, is that they actually identified the platform that they wanted to use, but then brought us in sort of early enough in the process so that we could actually determine or help determine the appropriate technology and the appropriate kind of maybe lifespan as well of this exhibit, because this is a traveling exhibit and it is the largest one that the ROM has ever produced. So they really took a chance in doing something like this, and I think they also took a chance in bringing an independent contractor on board, you know, when the whole timeline was about 9 months. So we ended up, I think, in the end producing about 7 or 8 exhibits in total, and we really found ways to kind of extend the life of these digital assets. And this would really work the same way, you know, regardless of whether it's 3D or whether you're doing audio or whether you're doing any type of video, it would really kind of mean the same thing, just being really smart about how you're using the time and the money. That's all.
Okay. One other note about the technology choices and the user and the overall experience. There was a lot of question about, you know, why is it only on iPhone? And I kind of mentioned earlier, like, why isn't it on Android? And I mentioned earlier, just to be able to sort of get through development and put our effort into, you know, the experience on the other end. There were options to be able to do Android, but since Android is since there are so many devices and so many operating systems, it would have really brought the experience down to a really low level of lowest common denominator, and we wouldn't have been able to make the dinosaurs look as good. We wouldn't have been able to have the sort of experience work as seamlessly as it did. And so those are the hard choices that you need to make sometimes. You know, it was really kind of an evaluative process of, do we feel that there are enough people that have devices, iPhone or iOS devices, and the research kind of pointed to, yeah, this will be good, and we want to make the content look great. That being said, there was a desire to make sure that people that didn't have their own device when they came to the show, that had an experience, similar experience. So I'll just jump onto the React walls here. And these are maybe a little small and a little hard to see, but there's more stuff on our site if you care to take a look. But essentially what you're seeing up here is 3 panels that were 8 feet wide each, so the whole thing was 24 feet wide, and it was kind of part of a giant mural. So it was a 40-foot printed mural, and we had created this digital inset, if you will, that showed the habitat, showed some of the animals, and as you walked in front of this screen, it would trigger animations through the use of Microsoft Kinect cameras. And they were not meant to be gestural, but they were meant to be used to literally know that someone is there, and if they get closer to the screen, then something else will happen. So it was really kind of a proximity detection. And so when we looked at this one, we thought, in some ways, the interaction is minimal, and really we wanted to be able to sort of tell a short, quick story in a kind of a new way without having you to touch anything, or you just being there sort of draws the attention of these dinosaurs over, almost as if you're in a zoo. So the focus on this one really became putting a lot of effort into the content, into the rendering of these animals, and the portraying their movements as honestly as we feel that the paleontologists felt were as true as possible. And so there were 6 panels. There was a north panel for the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. They featured, you know, the different plants and animals of those hemispheres. And certainly, you know, some challenges with technology there, but again, it came down to being able to, you know, rather than just doing one wall, we were able to do 6 by sort of creating a platform. So each screen essentially has the same technology, it's just got new animations. So we're able to create 5 minutes, okay. Let's just, yeah, we'll just jump on. So there's just 2 more that I want to show you. There's the Dyno Viewer. So the Dyno Viewer was what we were talking about. There's no video, but that's okay. And so it's stuck here. Seems to be, there we go, okay. Dyno Viewer. In Exhibit augmented reality option, it was kind of a solution for people that don't have their own device. And so it's sort of, the question was, well, if people come to the exhibit, they want to do augmented reality and they don't have a device, we want to include them, what do we do? Do we hand out iPads? How do we manage that? Is that a good idea? Will that even work? One of the realizations was that augmented reality at that time, it's evolving, but at that time, it's very much image-based, which means you need to be looking at a flat plane, a flat picture, to be able to call up this augmented reality experience. So at the time, that would have meant plastering these images all over the bones, which we don't want to do. We wouldn't want to keep that looking as beautiful and as pristine and right out of the ground as much as it could be. So this solution was actually, if you can make it out, it was a stand that we had mounted in front of 3 of the key dinosaurs that allowed you to kind of have an augmented reality experience. It was a little bit more of a virtual reality, hybrid augmented reality. But by doing so, we are able to know exactly where we are and create this feeling that it's like a reverse X-ray, that you would point this device at the bones and you would see it fleshed out. And again, you're able to take the same models that we did in the augmented reality app and bring them into this application, and so we're extending the reach of our content. And I think the last one here that I wanted to show is Continental Drift puzzle game. So this was supporting the idea of continental drift, that the continents were all together in one landmass, Pangaea and then later Gondwana. And we wanted people to be able to physically work together to put this puzzle back together. And we came up with this experience that was basically a very large screen. So that's what you'd see up at the top with all these floating continent pieces. And at the bottom there were 5 iPads where you could choose a continent piece. And this is one of those experiences where the experience itself was the most important, and the content could be, in a way, reduced to the simplest shapes. So all the development was what was most important, creating that very simple to understand user experience.
Collaborative experience. The focus was really on making the iPads sort of work together as consoles, and then users would be able to at first think that they're competing against somebody, but then very quickly realize that it's actually a collaborative experience. So it's really fun, seeing that shift in the audience when they realize that they actually should work together to kind of get the final result. But yeah, as Ken said, it was really the technology and the content that we developed really runs the gamut of from really simple 2D shapes to sort of high-end 3D dinosaurs. And in our minds, it's really possible, I think, to create these really engaging experiences at different sort of budget levels as well. So you just have to identify your objectives as an institution, but also as a company, for example, as a contractor working on these types of projects, and then kind of work together to really develop what this needs to be, what is the purpose of this experience, what are we trying to achieve, and then sort of decide how much money and time you want to invest in, let's say, sort of the visual wow factor versus the kind of intricacy of interactivity, let's say. And some of the more minimal, seemingly more minimal experiences are actually the hardest ones to make, because when you have sort of a lot of interface to kind of convey user activity or the desired path that you want your users to take, it really makes it simple, even though there are more elements that you need to create in your interface. So the graphical user interfaces, those are the buttons, the kind of, press next or swipe. But some of these more minimal experiences where you're just triggering, the dinosaur by looking a certain way, and that are kind of more seamless and don't require the user to do very much in order to get them going, those can end up being more complex. So that's kind of an interesting thing with working with technology.
Okay, time's up.
Okay.
Just quickly, one tiny last thing, just about the content management system that always comes up. And it sort of came up on this project, and it was really about do we make this flexible so that we can update it and we can change it, and that would have been another one of those things where we reduce the overall experience down because we're putting so much into this management system. So sometimes, in the end, it's better to just build what you want to build, and if you want to update it later until you understand whether it's something you want to take way in the future. And things like augmented reality are changing like weekly, so don't build a content management system for augmented reality right now.
It's never really over, as Sean said as well.
Thanks.
It's always a learning experience. So you're always improving